live.
We are.
Yeah. Hopefully
That's
that
exciting.
hopefully that worked. A little intro music with some keyboard microphone sounds over top.
Mm.
You know, that's how you know the cool kids know that it's a cool program is because we have hip hop music at the beginning.
Jesus. I didn't know that, but that's great.
Yeah. Yeah, hopefully that worked because I couldn't hear it, but that is a new addition to the program. Hey, how are you?
It's going, it's flowing. How are you?
Yeah, good, doing good.
We had a little intro there. We're happy about last podcast. That went pretty good, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it feels like slowly maybe getting the hang of it, getting used to the whole situation, the whole setup.
The setup. It's
Um,
taken shorter now to set up
yeah.
than it used to, which is a good thing. We don't lose the attitude as much, right?
Yeah, it's so fragile. It's like just having a Skype conversation. Sometimes there's technical difficulties just calling someone, and then there's maybe
Yeah.
like a big lag, or it's like, what's going on? Who is this? My internet or your internet, or what's happening? Why is my webcam not working? I'm gonna restart my computer. All that stuff. But in this situation, it's like microphones plugged in. Not sure if the audio is coming from the right place and we're learning, but it's getting faster and smoother every
And
day.
we're streaming to multiple platforms at once. So
Yeah, it's new for us.
that's new for us.
It's new
Yeah.
for us.
Mhm.
And I'm just checking around just to make sure. I still haven't figured out how best to monitor while we're on the call, just to make sure that everything's up and running. Because a few of the times we've finished the podcast, I'll go and look at the comments and it's like, can't hear anything, no sound. And it gets recorded, which is interesting, but throughout the conversation, sometimes it gets cut out. So we'll see. We're using a different restream service. So maybe
We are.
that's been the
We should mention if anyone is interested, our our database is over on our YouTube channel. So
yes.
if you're new to this cast and you want to see the 4 previous ones, they're there.
That would be the location to
That would
go
be the
and
location
do
to go
that.
and do that.
Internet location.
Hmm.
We have internet locations now. How weird is that?
We have internet real estate.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
that is crazy. For free, basically. All the how it's pretty amazing, you know.
The internet is crazy.
The
I
internet is
think
crazy.
that's. Are we going there? Wait. Here's
Dude.
here's the thing.
That is not a debatable thing, which is, anyone can recognize that the internet is crazy. And,
Yeah.
that is accepted. 50 years ago, if you said that, people would say, what are you talking about? Are you fishing? What net? What are you talking about?
Is it getting more crazy though, or is it getting less crazy? Because there used to be a time where we're like, dude, I'm selling this on the internet.
Yeah.
You're crazy.
You're
And then
crazy.
You are crazy people.
You're going to get
Yeah.
killed. No one said, no one said that.
I am.
No, I'm talking about
I'm just kidding.
talking
No,
about
I
like
know.
Craigslist.
Oh, dude, Craigslist. That never really hit over here in Mexico.
No.
That never really was like a thing. I'm
Yeah.
sure a lot of people used it, but it wasn't. It never was. It's not a thing.
What's interesting about Craigslist is I feel like the fear never is accurate. Is an accurate depiction of what a regular Craigslist interaction is like. Sure, there's
Mm.
people there trying to rip you off and trying to what have you, but in general, it's like nice people having transactions flawlessly, and there's like you said $50 and all that stuff, but like no one's gonna hurt you. It's like
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
this podcast is sponsored by Craigslist.
it's not. I think you could argue that in Canada, but if you're in Mexico
Maybe,
and you
yeah.
say you're in like in Mercado Libre, which
Yeah.
is why am I saying it like I just said a Spanish word
Yeah.
in English accent. That was so bad.
It's because
I
you're on the
wish
it's because
I
you're on
wish
the
I could
English
go
mindset.
back.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're talking about mindset like 10
Yeah.
minutes ago.
I feel like we should maybe slow down our topic switches. We've gone from internet to Craigslist
Yeah,
to differences in Mexico and Canada in terms of
that
social interaction to mindset. Uh,
to then
sh-
mindset. And I
sh-
was gonna say that's why I was like, are we going into the internet thing?
yeah,
Because this is what's beautiful about spoken openness. You could go anywhere
yeah,
and not and say anything and not even feel guilty. Here's somewhere I may want to go this conversation.
yeah.
Um,
To the bathroom. I'm sorry.
we're feeling funny today.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah,
It's that coffee.
mindset is
It's good.
nice.
Mindset
I
is
didn't
good.
have
Is
coffee
it
today.
mindset though? Can we quickly address mindset real
We need to
quick?
address, yeah, we need to address mindset.
I we
Um,
were talking before, and I just feel like mindset is a squirrely word, and I have trouble with mindset, even though I get the vibe and I get what it's all about and when it's used. What are your thoughts on the word mindset?
I feel like we may never fully understand it, but it's useful to use
The word.
the word.
What
Yeah,
does it mean to you when in
it
use? What
it's
is it?
my state of mind, my
State of
mindset.
mind. Right.
That's what I think I'm saying. That's what
Yes.
I yeah.
Yeah. So I can transfer the definition in my mind, redefine it, and then use it in that way. What's always bothered me is people using it as like my mindset is this or it's this. I always figured like mindset was you deciding to action something in your sort of your current perspective. So you're going
That's
like,
interesting.
I'm gonna go in there with the correct mindset, you know, or like you're gonna go. Uh, it's
But
like
that would be the same meaning.
no, because
You
your state of mind is like what it is.
I don't think so.
Your mindset is what you set it. That's why the word set is there. It's like
Oh, you said it. You make a choice for it.
yeah, that's what I'm
But
saying.
yeah,
Yeah, that's what I'm
but
saying.
I think you can change. You can voluntarily change mindset.
You mean state of mind? I think you can.
Because that's the thing.
This is semantics.
Mhm.
This is
This is good.
semantics.
That's
Uh,
exactly. Should we check like an official dictionary?
no, you know what? I don't think it matters that much in my life.
It doesn't
To,
really,
I
because it also depends in the context of uh,
when you're saying it,
how you're
yeah,
using. Yeah.
yeah. Uh, I I think yeah, I have no beef with mindset anymore. It's gone. It's all gone. So we will use it
So
at our will.
let's just agree what the basic general meaning is.
Mindset.
Yeah,
See, I don't know if it's a descriptive word or if it's like an action word.
I think it's
We
more descriptive
we can look this up.
actionable.
We can look this up, and this
No, let's not because if we look it up, we'll be like, yeah, of
later,
course, yeah,
later.
later. But
Uh, I should we move on?
please, yeah, let's move on.
Okay. The internet.
Here's the thing.
Yeah, what's
We
the thing?
have okay. It has to do with mindset a little bit. We are moving on, but I'm trying to make a connection here.
Yeah, a little segue.
If we, it's like some kind of a paradox because you can't have an authentic conversation without getting a little personal, right? But then
Yeah,
again, because you have to speak from experience
yeah,
and you're the one who's speaking, right? And you have an ego and you're a person, so how could it not be personal, right? In that
yeah,
sense.
yeah,
But then we have this disclaimer that no opinion is personal, right? Like we're not identifying with the idea
Yeah.
personally.
I don't think we have necessarily, well, maybe delved into anything that. Uh, I just think that that is an interesting disclaimer. Interesting. I think that is a, a good disclaimer because just to have in general because I mean it's just whether it's just a small topic like mindset or something like that. I may change my mindset tomorrow or something, you know? I might change my
Yeah.
mind on that.
Hmm. Hmm.
Uh, or on something else. And so I think it's just something that is there so that there's freedom to feel like you can explore ideas without needing to have the final uh, your final opinion on it or idea on it or even separating the discussion from any need to have uh, identification to the ideas. Yeah, but it's true
Hmm.
that maybe a conversation that is most important or not important. I don't know. We can discuss this, but there is a personal aspect to good conversations because the whole point is to one of the fundamental points I think is to clarify your understanding of reality and the way it works. And so when you're in a conversation, you're discussing things to get feedback and to get kind of like a combined understanding that happens in like a synergistic way when people are it's like in if you've ever improved music or something or improv if you anything to
Hmm.
do with like a large group where something can simultaneously emerge that's like a larger thing than the constituent parts. It's like an emergent property. It's like all these people and then are playing their instruments and then something else is formed that's sort of unique to the cohesiveness of everybody's actions. Um, and I think that's emergent properties are such a crazy idea, and we could get into that.
They
So,
are.
some
Yeah.
people think that that's what consciousness is. Most people, scientific reductionist ideas are that consciousness is a result of the individual material movements in the brain, and then something
Hmm.
else is formed. And it's kind of a cop out, I think. It's just like it's material, but then it forms this unknown thing that we don't understand, and everyone and nobody really clarifies that. But so I went on a
Totally.
bit of a
Yeah.
rant there, but yeah.
No, but dude, I'm completely following, and it totally makes sense. Um, I just thought about when you said consciousness, I thought about non-local consciousness, um,
Mm-hmm.
and collective consciousness,
Yeah.
and also the idea that, I've always been fascinated by the transpersonal. That might be a way to,
Can you
like,
explain what you mean by that?
what's the metaphysical, what's beyond the physical, the transpersonal, what's
100%.
beyond just the individual,
Right.
collective consciousness.
Yeah.
Um, but
Yeah.
I have a small issue there because I also believe in individualism a lot.
Yeah.
Developing your personality and
Yeah.
your. So how could you engage in a non-personal
Yeah.
conversation? That's what I'm saying, right?
Right,
Like
right, right.
this disclaimer may be an illusion.
100%, 100%. But that I don't think it necessarily means to get because if you go down that road, everything is an illusion. You know, like you could go down that sort of way of
The
thinking.
self is an
Yeah,
illusion.
yeah,
Individualism is an illusion.
yeah.
Well, yeah, of
And
course.
you kind of went through a bunch of different interesting topics. I mean, that idea of dude, consciousness is massive, unknown,
Every topic could be connected to consciousness.
everything. Yeah, and but that thing that you talked about, the transpersonal, I think you used that word.
Hmm.
Um, I think, would you say that when you say that you're talking about uh, something that is the non-unique element to individual makeup reality, like
Right.
the thing that's consistent between individuals that could be considered a cohesive single or one thing.
The spirit.
Is that kind of, it's hard.
Yeah, I just said that
Yeah,
word and
you
it
threw
could
it out
be
there.
misinterpreted. But
Yeah,
um,
you fucked us with
my
that.
God. Okay, so I'm sorry. I need to make a public apology here. Um,
No, no, no.
but I think, yeah, I mean, the spirit is so it's so, I don't want to say misunderstood, because who am I to say that people are
Right.
misunderstanding something?
Yeah.
But it's engaged with consciousness so much. The idea of spirit and consciousness being this same energy, or same
Sameness,
foundational
quality.
stuff, quality.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That's in everything, right?
Yeah.
Supposedly.
I'm gonna try to formulate the feeling of the idea that I have into words. It's gonna be hard.
Okay,
Um,
go for it.
I think that the spirit thing and the vocabulary that's used across various religious and spiritual traditions to explain or to all of their definitions are vary, or the specifics of what people think quote unquote a spirit is varies, and I think that that muddies, um, that makes it hard to come to a personal definition of what that could be or what that idea is. Um, However, that being said, I think that something about that attempt to name that whatever that thing is, I think that that's an important attempt, because I'm not willing to completely dismiss the potential or even the belief that that possible thing doesn't exist. I lost track of
100%.
where I
Yeah.
started with that
No,
sentence,
but
but
dude,
yeah,
100%. It's the attempt that matters.
yeah, and it's fun.
And in those traditions, that some is spirit, some is chi, some is prana, some is, you could go on, right?
Right.
These like different attempts of mapping this quality,
Yeah.
that's not the individual. It has to do
Right.
with something that could maybe be beyond life, like afterlife, beyond life. I'm saying
Yeah.
maybe that a lot of people feel like that's real. Like,
Yeah.
um, there's a lot of people that, let's say, they have a near-death experience,
Mhm.
or a psychedelic experience,
Mhm.
or a very profound meditative experience where they
Mhm.
kind of lose sense of time and space and personality, and
Yeah.
they experience this infinity inside of them, because they're it's happening inside of them, or I don't know.
Yeah.
But I mean, this experience that kind of gives you some empirical evidence that
Like
there's,
qualitative understanding, like it's personal. Yeah.
yeah, but some people find that as evidence.
Right.
They believe it's experience is evidence that there's something beyond the individual, beyond just
Yeah.
the monkey mind, right?
Yeah. There's a lot there.
And it's not just religious. That's what I'm saying. It's not just a belief, because
Yeah.
if you have the actual experience, then that says something about your understanding of reality, right? It's you go through this paradigm shift, and you then need to come up with a different attempt to
Yeah.
understand and map your reality.
Totally. There's so much there. I think that I'm just words almost can't. I think that's part of the problem. Is
Exactly. Yeah.
it's a
Hmm.
non-lingual
Hmm.
thing.
Domain. Yeah.
It's a non-lingual domain. You can't. It's a dot question mark. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? It's a www dot question mark.
That's why
Uh,
you can only attempt to. It's like you can attempt to explain someone how a banana tastes like.
yeah.
You can only attempt to, but I mean, if they want to know what it is, they need to have the experience.
Yes, there's a really great American football song where he says, "The only way to teach a blind man about the ocean is to push him in," or something like that. It's a great lyric. But I think in our one of the things that's made the Western like this our Western scientific success with material things. What's made it so successful in some ways is the obsession with the external and the sort of the cult of the external. And we've become almost phobic of the idea that internal experience can be as valid as external measurable items. And like the idea that the only thing you can truly confirm is internal, that's a Buddhist idea. That idea that like the only thing that you can verify is something you've experienced with your senses. You've seen, whatever it is. And that experience of the dissolution of ego and the dissolution of boundaries, that's something that Terence McKenna talked about in his sort of summarizing the psychedelic experience, was that it dissolves boundaries. And I think that that's what what we're talking about is if you dissolve all boundaries, if you dissolve the boundary of identity, you dissolve the boundary of I'm a this, I'm a that, I'm a cyclist, I'm a whatever, and you keep dissolving boundaries, you end up at something. There's something there when you dissolve boundaries, and I think that's what uh, different traditions have tried to define using words like spirit, soul, whatever.
Hmm.
And
Source. Yeah.
yeah,
Because the dissolution of the boundaries, you could say, it's just like peeling off the different superficial layers that can't let you experience source.
yeah, the clothes.
That's
Yeah,
the
there's
yeah.
yeah. Yeah, it's in Tawai, the movie that we did we lose a battery?
Man,
Do
again?
you have a
This is
charged
what?
one?
I don't think it's. Is it? Is it? Is it? Are we back?
Not yet. There we go. We're back. There is a that scene in Tawai where he's in India,
Yeah.
and that guy is he goes, everybody is a pot, and you put water in the pot, and
Yeah.
the sun. If you look at the pot, you see the sun in all the pots.
Dude, when
That
he
was a
asked,
great metaphor.
we should clarify what the question was. I mean,
Right, right.
the documentarian was asking
They get it. They
a
get it.
monk.
Yeah.
What was the exact question? Because I don't quite remember. But I have the
Uh,
feeling that it was like, how do you explain to like Occidental minds that there is a sameness quality in everyone, right?
right,
Like we're all mirrors of each other. How can
right.
a Western mind kind of comprehend that? And I remember when he asked that, I was like, what is this guy gonna reply?
Yeah, yeah,
Like I was like very carefully waiting for the answer, and
yeah,
it really nailed. I think he really nailed it.
yeah. There was also there was also like a tone. I gotta get better at laughing sideways so I don't cause wind to go into my microphone.
That's
Um,
okay.
he the sadhu almost had like a he was like like you're at this step, like you're so far back,
Mhm. Mhm.
like he was just like, just think of it this way, like here's this. But it was just, to me it was just funny because I don't know what the frustration was from, but I found it funny that he kind of answered it in like a just, you know, get like, you don't haven't got this yet, like this notion. I don't think it's even like something you have to adopt, and like I don't walk around going like everyone's a pot reflecting the sun of the eternal consciousness. Like I think that's a kind of far out way to experience the world. Maybe it's a beneficial way to experience the world, but
Mhm.
I think it's a valid uh, philosophical experiment in terms of ways of conceptualizing the possibility of a uniform conscious element to our individual experiences. And that's what's fun for me, I think.
Yeah, yeah. No, and also, I mean, it's just one more attempt, like you were saying, to like explain something that just can't be explained in clear and practical and specific words, right?
Mm-hmm.
You need to have some kind of a metaphor or a whole kind of theory,
Yeah.
and you could change words and use different words, and you could still
Mm-hmm.
give it meaning, I think. But there's also like it's so much more fun and I would say obvious to try to explain it, try to comprehend the that idea that there's a consciousness that's beyond the intellect, you know, the
Material.
material language making mechanism.
Yeah.
Um, because like there's people like I don't know, I've never thought of myself as an atheist. I've
Mm-hmm.
thought of myself as an agnostic
Mm-hmm.
before, but atheism is like I'm sure there's nothing,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? Well, yeah, like how do
Mm-hmm.
you know? Like no, there's nothing. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's no evidence that there's nothing either. And there's I guess there's experience of despair and complete depression where you literally think like this is it and it's all material, and like you could have that experience where you firmly believe it.
Mm-hmm.
um, but there's so many other experiences in so many cultures that kind of testify to that consciousness being a thing.
Yeah. It's
And I'm not saying that's evidence that it exists either,
no. And
but
this is a super
yeah.
interesting topic because I would have considered myself like a militant atheist for like a couple years, maybe 6 years ago. And what's interesting is that sort of a religious or like I think there's an innate part of the human brain, like an evolutionary module that seeks a like a super widespread, like super zoomed out lens of, I don't even know how to define it, but there is a program in the mind that's like a religious experience program. It's like a belief of like a larger perspective of understanding or of faith almost that's there. And I think the answer to the nihilism that can come so easily with like a super reductionist materialist atheist viewpoint is, and
Mhm.
this isn't to say that I don't think that atheism is good or you should be. This has nothing to do with that.
I don't think
But
we
but
think it's
people,
either good or bad.
no, I don't think anything is good or bad. But I think that that's not true. Anyways, that's a whole thing. Uh, Something that gets filled as evolutionary timescales become the religious source of faith feeling of like the grandeur of historic evolutionary time and of the beauty innate in organisms and animals and the and it sort of becomes this like um, overly accentuated beauty in science and in history and in which I think is beautiful. I think that's fundamentally beautiful. Looking at understanding the time scales and this complexity that's come over millions of years and seeing that as kind of this grand meaning source. And that gets filled into that brain module that usually is or in Eastern traditions is filled with sort of these concepts of oneness and what we were talking about earlier. But I think there's something to the experience of the dissolution of boundary and a feeling, and this is what I wanted to just mention quickly was it could be just a pure state of experiencing senses and present moment that like even that is irrefutable. I think if you condense everybody and remove any thoughts they're having to just a pure input of data from the world using their senses, I think there's that it would be a pretty uniform experience across human beings. That's what I think. I don't know. Maybe it's different. Maybe people.
Yeah. What I get from what you're saying is that, thoughtless experience is irrefutable.
Right. Yeah.
That's a thing, state of flow. I imagine a F1 racer,
Nice.
like, yeah, just pure instinct and reacting to reality as you like pure creativity. You mentioned improv
Yeah.
earlier. I think that's that kind of testifies to a creative force that I think sometimes has to do with the transpersonal. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not so much like improv comedy. I don't know. I've never done that, but we've both done acting improv.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you just feel like you're channeling or like embodying a different energy that has nothing to do with you and your personal preferences and history and
Yeah.
background. So in some senses, like the cup is one thing, then the monkey mind or the contents of the cup is another, and then like what powers it up, both the cup and the
Yeah.
content, that's the consciousness or creative power source that I think
Yeah.
we're. What do you think of
Yeah,
that?
it's yeah, see, trying to figure out the exact mechanism by which these things might function is so hard. And I totally agree that in a state of flow, it feels like your ego is taking a step back from the driver's seat maybe. And you don't feel as much like you're commanding this orchestra and you're deciding on what to do, and if it's playing music what note to play, or if it's improv what to say. You're just kind of going with the flow, as they say. uh, I think that someone who's maybe super reductionist materialist minded would say, well, that is completely giving into the natural and automatic productions of your mind that has been designed over your lifetime from nature versus nurture, and that is going to differ between people because they've had a different life and different genes. And so even though you feel like you're not in control of it, it's something that's playing out by itself from the neural patterns that have been designed, and that it feels like you are stepping back and in flow state. But what it is just you're letting your mind do the programs that you've that you've installed, mindfully or non-mindfully. Um, and it's so easy to say, like, yeah, that sound, for me it's easy to adopt that and go, of course that's what it is. It's, of course that's what it is. But then there's the experience of deep meditation or whatever it is, where you feel uh, like that's not the full story, and there is something there to the thousands and thousands of years of different cultures coming to the same understanding. There's, there's where there's smoke, there's fire. It's like there's something to the discussion, the attempt. There's something there, and that's what interests me about it, and that's what that's what keeps me kind of onto that. Yeah.
But I'm trying to think of what a neuroscientist would say, which I can't
I
because
think
I'm
kind of,
not one.
I'm not
But
one, but I think similar to the reductionist,
yeah,
mechanistic kind of way of looking at it.
and there it, I'm 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 certain that there will be an explanation for. I like to think that science will someday say, okay, this is what was happening.
Right.
Also, for example, I've read stuff like near-death experience where you're like, there's different ones, but the tunnel, the light tunnel, the
Yeah.
going through your life.
Yeah.
There could be an explanation where it's like the right hemisphere tricking your
Hmm.
brain into this like
Yeah.
internal hallucination.
Yeah.
And that brings me to like the Rick Strassman.
Yeah. The DMT
Uh, the,
experiments.
he stopped doing that because people were like, this is too real. Like this
Yeah.
wasn't just like an experience. Like this was more
Yeah.
real than my life.
Yeah.
And he was like, whoa, let's just stop doing this.
And yeah, any interviews you see with him today, he just looks like he's seen too much. Like he looks like he came into those experiments with, like, oh, it's going to perturb the mind, maybe change the way our sensory input, uncovers the whatever data, and he clearly had some idea that fit within his framework of the world and
Mhm.
how reality is, and then and then all
Yeah,
these
yeah.
all these people are experiencing entities, and they're all having the same out of body experience, and they're going to another place, and it
Yeah,
feels
dude.
real. And
Some of them the same entities and like the same qualities to the experiences and like
yeah,
going back to the same thing and people thinking like, well, this has to be a portal to like some other
yeah.
dimension because just went back there 3 times.
Yeah,
Like,
which is the same, which the reports are very similar to near death experiences, which are very similar
yeah.
to alien abduction experiences, and it's just like this confusing. So I think one of the things he said was that perhaps alien abduction experiences and near death experiences are an endogenous dump of DMT, because we all make it in our brain. It's not 100% confirmed that it's in the pineal gland, but they've found that in rats. So, and it's always been perceived to possibly be there. So it's
Yeah.
very close to being sure that it's produced in the pineal gland. But that's the idea. But that doesn't answer the question of what that is, or what's happening, or that's another, and that's closely related to consciousness, because that whatever consciousness is completely transforming into something else, but awareness is still there, and
Yeah. Hmm.
that's part of the it just an it's
I
it
almost want to
yeah,
say that that just feels like evidence that,
something's going on. Yeah.
yeah. But I mean, it's so hard to play the with the word evidence.
Right.
It's tricky.
Yeah, I'm
But
gonna
yeah, dude, that's super exciting.
to quickly pull another McKenna quote. I'm quoting him a lot these days. Is
Yeah.
and this goes back to the atheism deism thing or whatever. Is this notion of thinking of the everything as the Big Bang, and then knowing that physics comes into play and the laws of the universe are there, and so then everything is kind of billiard ball model comes into the way the world is today after billions of years.
Mhm.
Um, he says that that's basically science saying, "Give us one free miracle, and we'll explain the rest." And I and I love that, dude. It's like
Yeah.
e- everyone goes so obsessed with the rest part of that, going, we can explain evolution, we can explain all this other stuff. How did it start? And, just think of
Yeah.
any concept of a beginning and something having to start a beginning. There has to be some sort of, it's really hard to think of something that begins itself, like something is usually, started by something. And if it is started by itself, then that is like, what is that? Then that is some sort of unbelievably powerful
Yeah.
un
Well,
verb, yeah. It's
I think that's one quality of consciousness or God that I'm
oof.
saying God because
Oof.
I'm going back to like a lot of religions and traditions. Um, their God or their maximum entity
Mm-hmm.
or their idea of the everything
Right.
or creator or source,
Yeah.
it, it has this quality that it was never born, it
Yeah.
will never die.
Right.
It
That's
exists by its own,
by itself. Yeah, that's
by
the
itself. Yeah.
that's
Mm.
that's sort of the Sikh, Hindu, and like Hermetic. I don't know how. One thing that fascinates me is trying to trace the history and how these ideas became absorbed into these ancient traditions,
Yeah.
and that is the like the Hermetic stuff is so similar to the Sikh kind of and Hindu mythology, I guess, or sort of
Yeah.
philosophy of what
Would you
everything
say,
is. And
yeah.
I don't know, the thing that's fun, that's attractive to the Hermetic philosophy is that it's not saying, well, it's saying a lot, but it's saying things in a way that's hard to poke holes in, even though it's abstract. So that whole idea of like, um, there is only the all, and the all is everything, and nothing started it because it is the only thing that could start things, and everything is encompassed within the all and within the everything, and it's sort of like a watertight, abstract thing that doesn't really say much to say like a scientific reductionist materialist type. But to me, it's kind of a nice, wholesome uh, way of defining reality.
Well, because the thing is, in our reality, everything has a beginning. Everything
Mhm.
happened for a reason.
Yeah.
Everything. And, science can explain that in our reality. But then the reality itself
Hmm.
should have should have a beginning and
Yeah.
a creator
Yeah.
should, because everything in our reality is that way. So it's like a logical step to think that there's a creator and there was a time when it
Hmm.
was created. And there's I don't understand really like people would say, yeah, I believe in the Big Bang, but I believe God created the Big Bang, right?
Yeah, yeah,
I've heard that a lot,
yeah.
and
But see,
it's just
the thing
weird.
is like,
I'm not saying I'm a creationist, but
yeah.
maybe the other way around. Maybe I don't know. I don't know.
The
I
thing is
believe in
the
not knowing. I believe in not knowing
yeah,
too. Like,
yeah. The thing about someone saying that, say, is nice focus looks good. Is no one has the same definitions of things, right? So when they say, if someone might say, I believe in the Big Bang and evolution and the laws of physics and all that stuff, but uh, we lost you.
seriously, what's going
Um,
on? I think it's my cam overheating.
oh, yeah.
Yo, I
These.
think my camera is overheating because I was supposed to have full battery. Am I messing our
Yeah.
session?
No,
Yeah,
that's all good. Do you want to go to
it's not.
webcam?
It's not. I should. Yeah, think I should. Are we? Nope.
Yeah,
I'm back,
it's
bro.
there.
But
Let's see.
okay. Yeah. If it
Um,
happens again, I'm just gonna go to the webcam
nice. You should
as soon as it happens.
make a little
But
ice pack for it.
I
Uh,
should.
um, yeah, I was just mentioning the issue with definitions, and I think that that relates to the issues of language. Is that people might, have complete different definitions of things, and I think in order to have a conversation with somebody who may have a different philosophical background, the most important thing is to start with definitions because that person might say, well, I believe in Big Bang and every billiard ball model and all that stuff, but there was a creator that or God created everything. Then you have to go, oh, do you think
Hmm.
what is that? Please define in the best way possible your idea of God, because is it a hermetic concept? Is it like a Sikh concept, or is it sort of a
Totally.
more fundamentalist Christian concept? And it's
Hmm.
like, and that's the thing that makes it hard, I think, to have these types of conversations with people, is because there's so much of a inconsistency with people's definitions. We were talking about that earlier with spirit. I think stuff like that. It just goes, oh,
Hmm.
especially with people who are phobic of having conversations like that, because their definition is sort of a non-definition, and it's sort of
Hmm.
a feeling of like, oh, that shit, like you're gonna bring up like it's like a non
Yeah,
it's a non-understanding, but it's a feeling of rejection immediately, and that's interesting to me.
it is, bro. Because it's like people are afraid of the topic. It's in Mexico, there's mainly the Christian and the Catholic understanding that there is a judgmental
Yeah,
entity just watching you, and
right.
especially watching you while you're naked. Like, just is especially concerned with everything you do while naked.
Yeah,
Um, and you know that then that well that has a lot of power over people's behavior. Um,
yeah,
and I think that kind of God and understanding of God, I think that's both created and imposed
mm-hmm,
so that people behave.
yeah,
Because if everyone were an atheist and like there's no God and that's why like Sam Harris and his whole scientific morality thing, which there's a lot that I don't agree with, but I think what he's trying to solve is the fact that if people destroy the idea of God in their heads, then they also destroy morality and ethics, right?
I don't think that's what he's saying at all. I think he's
Not at
saying
all.
no. He's saying you get rid of God, and you're just getting rid of the waste. You keep morality. You keep Uh,
No,
in
yeah,
his mind,
that's
it's
no,
completely
but
separate.
it's not. It is, and I'm
Yeah.
saying it's separate, but not for a lot of people.
Right. 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 Right.
So that's why he's educating. Because for most people, at least I'm sure in Mexico, bro,
Hmm.
if there's no God, then you can do everything. That's like the assumption, I think.
Right.
There's no judgmental entity that will um, charge you for it. You
Yeah.
pay no cost, right? Because if you, for most people, is I need to behave so that I get to heaven. Like that's the basic premise.
Yeah.
Um,
Do you think that would be the same if, say, someone lost their concept of God in this framework that you're talking about in Mexico? Let's say that they lost their framework of God, but they also lost all memories of knowing anything to do with the whole narrative that they had about uh, the judgmental figure, about any of that stuff. Because I think that the notion that if you get rid of God and you're saying that now the morality's thrown out, maybe that only occurs in a situation where they're so tied together. Whereas if you had someone from a starting point who never had adopted any of the narrative or any of the religious narrative, I think what and I need to look more into it, but I think some of what Sam Harris is talking about, and I think a lot of what evolutionary psychology talks about, is um, there's a lot of moral structures built into the psychology of the evolutionary animal that is a human being, and you can see that
yeah.
with like the sharing in babies and infant, and just like this, there's tons of research into the um,
Oh,
the
and
existence of that stuff.
we have stories, and and I think storytelling is older than religion. Maybe I'm not
Oh
sure.
no, well
Yeah, but
it has to be. There's no,
it has to be. Yeah, yeah.
it's impossible. It's like it's
Right.
impossible.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Well, but because maybe religion in its most fundamental aspect is, it started when storytelling started. Because mythology and
no, dude. Storytelling started with practical things. Like yesterday, I went to this field and I saw 30 deer, and then someone went, "That's a good story because that's helpful. Tomorrow we can go there and see those
so
30
you're
deer.
you're
We
you're
can hunt
saying
them."
as soon as we could formulate sentences, that's storytelling.
Yeah, language is story.
Yeah,
Language
true.
is story.
Mm.
That's what I think. And then eventually people started to explore using language and story in ways that weren't necessarily related to the practical, or like, hey, you stole my stone that I worked on for 2 weeks. That's like has a sharp point. That's a story.
Hmm.
And then
Okay,
they
I was
went, no, I
that.
didn't. That's a
Yeah.
story. Yeah.
So I was I was referring to more of a fictional stories. Um, I
Right.
think fictional stories they have embedded wisdom and moral questions and issues that are fundamental to the human experience.
I agree.
And
Yeah.
yeah,
Just devil's advocate, you can also say one day all of us woke up early and all of us went to the field and we hunted and there's so many deer and we got all of them and we were happy and we ate for 3 weeks. That's a story and that's a fiction, but it still doesn't have that thing that comes into play when you're talking about a religious story or religious ideas. But I think
mm,
I could agree that there's an element of morality in story in itself, because that story is a good story and people, when they hear it, they get a good feeling, and they get a good feeling because it's a positive outcome. And so people are going, what about that story? What pieces of that story resulted in the positive outcome?
but
And
I think the more powerful ones have not negative outcomes because it shows that if you behave this way, this happens.
mm-hmm.
Like I think that's the idea of fictional storytelling, fables, or like word to word
Yeah.
storytelling in traditions that, if I would like my son to understand this story, because
Mm-hmm.
through the examples and consequences of the story, he will know how to behave in that circumstance. So he will have this idea that
Yeah.
if he does this, there's consequences that can be devastating.
Totally, and that's what stories are for sure. Stories are ways of transmitting ideas about that can be beneficial for the future, for survival, for I think that's the point of and good stories have that embedded and religious stories. That's I think that's Jordan Peterson territory. That's the point of stories are to they contain that within them. And also I guess to take a point from some of his ideas are that's where you get the judgmental figure from is when there's an ideal when you tell a story about
Whose ideas?
Jordan Peterson.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Is that like a Jordan Peterson idea purely?
this idea that I'm just citing where I'm getting the idea from. I think the notion
Okay.
that the notion that you create an ideal, so you tell a story about somebody who gets all of these things and their life goes great, or here's a story about this person who had all these amazing attributes, a Jesus figure, for instance.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden, you have something to compare yourself to. So then all of a sudden, here's a perfect thing, and then you go, well, I'm not that, or we lost you, or I'm not. Um, you know what I'm saying? So then all of a sudden, there's ways that you can compare yourself to an ideal, and that's where the judgment comes from.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to.
Yo, it looks fine. It looks
It doesn't though. It's horrible.
it's
Okay,
all good.
it's not. It's good. The content is what matters though. So I don't wanna. Yeah, I don't wanna
Technology.
disturb the conversation.
Technology. Should we segue?
No, I like where we're going. Are you tired of this thing?
Getting slightly unsure about what exactly we're talking about, and I think
Yeah,
maybe I'm feeling um, a slight internal thing where I'm starting to recite ideas that I thought about without sort of trying to organically um, uh, generate concepts in the flow of the conversation.
I understand. Yeah. I mean, it's like a dance where you're playing with pre-thought
Hmm.
stuff and also trying to like come up with some new understandings
Yeah,
while you're doing that.
yeah.
Um, but what I think we're talking about is it's a lot actually. I
It
think
is a lot.
we're like juggling three or four different themes. The idea of a
Yeah,
creator,
yeah,
morality
yeah.
without creation, without an entity that
Hmm.
takes care of it. Is that what we're talking about? Because
This is
we
why I
started
think,
talking about consciousness,
yeah, this is why I
and
think I'm happy to maybe segue into something else.
mhm,
Uh, I just want to throw out the origins and history of consciousness by Eric Neumann,
mhm,
which is that's sort of the emergence of consciousness and the emergence of an individual perspective of the world out of the collective unconscious, and it sort of documents using narrative and using religious narratives and fiction into showing how they're representations of our own individual consciousness as an evolutionary animal. And I think that is until I can better um, give a summary of that book, it does way better than my current ability to um, generate ideas on the topic just because it's so massive.
Yeah,
And
I'm like halfway through it.
uh-huh.
It seems like I can't go any further
Hmm.
because I think the first half of it, or the first third of it,
Yeah.
that's enough to like read 5 times
Yeah. It's
and
there's so
still
much.
yeah, there's so much.
Yeah.
But I don't think we should limit our conversations because there's like a Bible book that
No,
already
I
says it
agree.
all. Like, yeah.
I agree. I agree.
Because we've both read different things and we've read some of the same stuff. But then I think what's very interesting is how we can sort of challenge each other's ideas
Yeah. 100%.
and and also, dude, I want to feel free to say something crazy.
Of course, man.
You know, like because this topics sometimes you have to risk saying like a crazy idea and maybe then taking it back.
Yeah.
But I think we're both in this confidence zone that we also want to create with the podcast, where it's not only a civil discussion or a conversation where you're trying to like say the right things.
Yeah.
Let's get playful
Right.
and get out there with some
Yeah.
crazy stuff.
Oh
Yeah, because
yeah.
I think that's yeah, that's fun. Yeah.
Yeah. Um yeah, man. What do you think what do you think this what are the stories that we are what are the main stories right now?
The main stories
Yeah.
for us
Uh
in society,
sure.
dude. If I had to say like what's the main story, the the simplest, most fundamental storyline of humanity, would that be that we don't really know why we're here? Because
That's a
we,
question.
but that's a story.
No, we use stories to answer that question, I think.
No, no, no. Those would be stories that answer the question. But what I'm
That's what
saying
I'm
is,
saying.
a story is there's there's human species on Earth, and they don't know why they're there, and they have to be there.
Okay, yeah, that's a story.
That's a story.
Yeah. Uh, you know, I think our current cultures do a lot to mitigate the exploration of that idea and that question and that story because it's not immediately productive. You know, we have an obsession with productivity and we have an obsession with um, time as the most important commodity. And I guess the idea is that that question will never be answered,
Yeah.
or can't be answered. Therefore, don't think about it or explore. Um, I think rather there's stories that are adopted I think some of the main stories are um, be the most productive. Um,
Mm.
don't waste your time. Um, be a part of the economy.
Be unique.
That's a big one. Yeah, be unique.
Be the exception.
Yeah.
Um, I
Uh,
think that's why we have heroes and deities, and you know why Jesus Christ and Buddha, and
yeah. That
so that they're symbols of what you should strive for as an individual.
Yeah, do you think that I don't think that that's um
I mean,
I don't know whether or
Jesus
not
is.
I don't know
Jesus
what
is, yeah.
I don't know whether
Sorry.
or not I believe that our current cultural and social state, if we are removing the idea of pure idealized figures, I think that's part of what's happening is we're removing the idea of idealized figures, or if I believe that um, uh, because our the the social pressure for designated idols is changing. There's I think there's it's becoming different things to worship. So maybe there's an innate psychological need to have an ideal thing that you idolize in culture. Um,
Mm.
or if there's maybe not, and we're slowly getting rid of that. Uh,
Yeah, I think your time frame for answering this question is recent. And I was thinking of a
yeah,
2000-year old time
yes.
frame.
I'm thinking modern. I'm thinking
You're thinking
modern,
modern, yeah.
current. Um,
Current.
yeah,
Yeah, it's totally productivity, I think. You're
yeah.
right.
Productivity.
And problem solving.
Yeah,
Because I think real productivity solved problems. And and successful businesses, they're successful and they become successful and they maintain their success because they continue to solve problems,
right.
even if it's a problem of commodity, even if it's a problem of making things a little easier, a little quicker. Dude, speed
Yeah.
is big.
Speed is
Also,
big.
speed is big.
You know what's weird, and I'm just thinking
Faster
about
is
this.
better.
This kind of relates to a discussion we were having a while back about, and this takes us to technology. But it's almost like we revere in ourselves that which we're doing with technology, like productivity. A computer can be way more productive. Speed, tech. That's
Mm.
that we're putting these concepts into technology, and they're infinitely more successful at executing these types of behaviors or you know and
Yeah.
and just to add something from that discussion is it's almost like maybe it's wrong that we are trying to emulate these things in humanness when we're creating them with technology, and rather we should focus on the creative and philosophical potentials of human beings, because that's going to be our uh, symbiotic nature with the technology we're making. We're going to need not factories, but we're going to need philosophical, moral, creative people in a world that's so governed by technological speed, productive things that can where stuff can happen in an instant. Um,
Hmm. Well,
yeah,
I think it's harder to be creative than to be efficient. And I think that's why it's also harder to create creative robots than to create efficient robots.
yeah,
So we're creating really fast and efficient technology so that we can get rid of that work process and workload. I think of the smartphone analogy that allows me to be peaceful and more creative with my life because I don't have to remember phone numbers and remember
yeah,
calendar events and all those things that my phone does better than me.
yeah.
I'm happy that it does it because
I
I have more RAM space to engage in
yeah,
creative stuff and not one plus one equals,
right.
you know?
I don't think it's yeah, and the crazy thing is it's not just phone numbers, but it's starting to become memories, and it's starting to become just general information,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
if I go to a website and I read something, I don't have to memorize that as long as I remember how I get to that website. Uh, you know,
Right. You don't have to memorize these specific words, but if you go through it and you have your own understanding.
yeah. Or
Yeah.
no, or even the info. Like I can be like, yeah, I read a thing about whales and the sound they make and how far it travels,
Okay.
or
Gotcha.
something like that. Whereas
Gotcha.
maybe, you know, 50, 60 years ago, you might have stayed at the library and really
Hmm.
taken that information in, remembered it, and that would influence you in your life more because you would hold that in your brain. Whereas now you just remember the location and
Hmm.
vaguely you title it. You have like a pathway to get to that information, and then you name it and go whale
Hmm.
thing.
Right.
I think it was on Facebook, and then you
So this takes me to Ray Kurzweil.
yeah
Am I saying pronouncing? I don't know.
yeah.
But this guy, he assures you that the phones will be inside of us one
He's a
day.
transhumanist. Yeah,
Hmm. Um, and
they
I don't want to put
will.
word.
They will.
Yeah, I think they will. But what he's saying is it's because of speed. Because one argument is,
Moore's
okay,
law.
I don't
Sorry,
know what Moore's law is,
sorry. Keep
but
going.
you
Keep
have to
going.
tell
I
me
think it's
about
a
it.
separate thing. It's a separate thing.
Okay, one argument is, well, I have like if this does the same thing than having it here,
Right.
why do I want to have it here? Like I can get rid of this if I want. Or like why do I want to like put it in me? And and I think the argument to that is because it's faster and more intuitive and it's
Yeah.
like more instant and more comfortable because it's part of you. Um, but like once that happens, you don't even have to remember the location or bookmark the place. If you think of it,
Yeah. Well,
you
this is
have access to it.
this is the thing. This is the crazy thing is we're outsourcing our brain. We're outsourcing our brain to the cell phones and the
But
computers. And
but
the
if you
cell
put the cell phone
phones.
back in, you're not outsourcing it anymore.
No,
Like
because no,
it's
this is the thing. This is the thing. I feel like we're replacing the things we used to do in our brain with the cell phone. And it's happening there. So if say it was 100% here, it's now probably like 60, 70%, 30% on the phone. So then eventually they'll merge. Well, I don't know however it's going to work, nanotechnology, whatever it is,
yeah, whatever it
biotech,
is.
whatever it is. Um,
Yeah.
Now it's going to be a full brain again, and your brain will be full in terms of the location that you do the processing and the thinking. However, it's going to be infinitely faster, and it's going to
Mm.
be and this is one thing that I was thinking about, and I wrote about this a couple of years ago, was when I got so frustrated with the inability to understand what's going on in the world because
Hmm.
of the divisiveness and the biases of news sources and the inability to verify anything, or the variety of stories online on the same subject and trying to figure out what's true or what's not. And
Hmm.
I feel like the amount of work that we have to do in 2018 to come to some understanding of a thing is massive, because we have to, it's not one source, it's not the book or the group of books, it's 75 different websites while trying to factor in biases, while trying to verify facts, while trying to see who might have been paid off in the study on PubMed, or it's all of that stuff. It's almost like we are inventing technology to assimilate with our biology just so we can process the world, because the world is becoming too overwhelming and complex that we're starting to be unable physically using our biology to interpret it. And it's we're gonna need to merge if we're gonna even try and
Mm.
do the processing mentally to take in and organize the information, because we're
Mm.
that's sort of, and I think that's true. I think that we're going to need that. Otherwise, we won't be able to live in a state of understanding in the world with such an onslaught of various sources and pieces of information. What do you think about that?
And dude, I agree. And also, information overload increases exponentially, I think.
Yeah, yeah,
And so I'm scared because right now,
Me too.
dude, seriously, because right now, like my phone scares me, right? Seriously.
Yeah.
It
It's behind
it
doors when I don't expect it. In the middle of the night, it goes boom.
it surprises me
Yeah.
sometimes when I don't. Yeah, I mean, I'm of course exaggerating here, but it's a love-hate relationship because sometimes it doesn't allow me to be peaceful
Yeah.
because I need to address things through the phone
Yeah.
that before it would take days, but now it's instant. So it's like you have to do it quick because you
Hmm.
can do it quick.
Yeah.
So it drives me crazy sometimes. The fact that you can do like you could be making millions of dollars from your phone or doing anything from your phone,
Hmm.
almost anything.
Yeah.
Okay, so that technology is evolving, and the fact that I have a smartphone and that I have these different apps and that it can do processing that I don't have to do allows me to be more peaceful, more in the moment, right? Um, if
Hmm.
the most basic thing would be that you want to give me your phone number and I can just put it in there. I
Yeah.
don't have to make the processing to keep it.
Is that just
Um,
lazy or is that peaceful?
I think that's peaceful. It's it it's lazy in a way that you could remember it, but then because you don't have the ability to, like there's a
Yeah.
muscle that you could be working on.
Yeah. Memory.
Um, but maybe laziness is not the word. If it's maybe it's easier, more comfortable,
Comfort. Yeah. It's about
comfort.
comfort. Yeah.
It's more about comfort because it allows your. I don't think you can be in the present moment while making calculations, let's say, math calculations, right?
Right, but here's the
But you,
thing. What are you doing? What are you doing when you use the phone? It's fast, right? But that's because we value fastness, and maybe it's incorrect that we're valuing fastness so much. Like I honestly am unsure whether or not being able to store the phone numbers so that I can be peaceful. It's like no, I think we're meant to do stuff, and I think part of that is physically being able to physically being able to memory, physically being able to memorize stuff, and
hmm,
like there's Francis Yates' book on the art of memory and about this like history of like alchemical memory techniques and this whole thing. It's
hmm,
we've lost that and we're losing it fast. And I don't. I agree. It's like all technology. It's good and bad simultaneously.
right,
So, however, it's getting harder to ignore the onslaught of information, and
yeah,
to main and so, uh, I guess what I'm saying is it true? There's a question. Is it true that in general technology is both good and bad, but there are ways to mitigate and to approach them properly so that it's more good than bad? That's part one of the question.
hmm, hmm,
If that's
hmm,
true, I am fearful that there's going to be an inability to do that in this situation with this technology, and that the only answer in this situation is to. Um, I don't think there's going to be a way to completely positively embrace the technology of like um, iPhone brain.
Are you talking about AI?
No, I'm talking about augmented, like your not AI.
Hmm.
I mean, AI might be built into the systems that are a part of the technology that are symbiotic with human beings, but
Hmm.
I'm talking about the necessity to adopt technology in order to deal with the world we're in.
Yeah. Well,
And maybe
we're
that's an incorrect premise or an incorrect.
we're maybe, I don't know,
Yeah,
but we're the creators of that technology. So if it goes wrong, we're to blame.
100%.
And
Yeah,
I don't want to go into AI and the dangers of AI. I don't want
right.
to go there right
Yeah.
now. But what I'm saying is I think there's more positive at the moment. That's why I was saying like, well, relating peace of mind to the fact that you don't have to remember a phone number. I also believe that it's good to have the capacity to remember. Because I think where this is going, you're not even going to remember 2 weeks ago because it's all on your phone
I
or
don't
in
think we
your
do.
or
Yeah.
that's a risk, right?
I don't think it's a
But
risk. I think it's here. I think it's here. I think it's here already, and it's only going to get
yeah,
worse. I think it's only going to get worse as
but
we,
no, but there's good to it. Like I'm peaceful right now because I have all my tasks and events managed in an app or three apps, three different ones
yeah.
that help me have that ordered and manage it and look at it physically outside of my mind, right?
Yeah.
We used to do that with writing, but now it's all digital.
Yeah.
But I really believe that allows me to like be peaceful right now and not be thinking like should I have done this because it's all in my head and did I maybe forget? Oh, it's also good to forget, bro. It's also good to forget sometimes because you can't remember it all and sometimes things are overwhelming and you need to like purge the memory.
Right. So I would say, and maybe we should switch shirts because I'm the black shirt in this scenario, and you're the
Mm.
kind of more positive on this one. But I think that I think that that gives you peace of mind because it's necessary in order to deal with the world we live in, and that you would that the only reason why there isn't a peace of mind is because we have so much going on. There's so much information. There's so much you have to do in order to relate to this idea of being productive and succeeding in the story and narrative of the world we live in, and that the only reason why it's a positive thing is because of the negative that you're getting rid of when you use the technology. And that's what I'm saying is it's a cycle, and that it's getting more and more intense, and that in order to have peace of mind to deal with the onslaught of information in your life and scheduling, it's going to feel more comforting and comfortable and easy to have it be assimilated into your biology. And this sounds crazy, but it's I
Hmm.
think it's where we're heading. Um yeah,
Well, but then it's a tool, right?
it could be, and I don't think we're using it as a tool.
Yeah,
uh
we are. You
Somewhat,
do.
somewhat, somewhat.
You do use it as a tool. We're doing it right now to broadcast this thing, and it's
Yeah,
like a wormhole where we're
that's true.
transcending space and time, and
Yeah,
like it's fucking crazy if
it
you
is.
really think about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when we're frustrated because oh my camera got heated and like super frustrated, but the fact that we're actually streaming this
Yeah,
to
if
possibly
it's working.
we don't even know. Yeah, we don't
It's
even know. Yeah.
Yeah, it's both and,
It's a tool,
Ken. It's
but what I'm
both
saying
and.
is, if you go back to basic tool use,
Yeah.
something sharp, you could cut yourself with it if you're not
Fire.
careful.
Yeah.
You could burn yourself with fire if you're not careful. So
Yeah.
what needs to be, that's why this conversations on philosophy and morality and the
Yeah.
implications of stuff.
Yeah.
The implications of.
Yeah.
I think that's very necessary that people really think through consequences.
I think so too, and I don't think that's to say that we're gonna come up with solutions, you know, or necessarily like we're gonna solve anything. Uh, but I
I really
think
think it's gonna get out of control.
it's the
Technology,
it's the
we
practice. Yeah.
it's gonna get out of
I think it
control.
is. I think it is already, and we're blind because
Right.
we. I think we. things are accelerating so fast that we've become desensitized to so many things, to change, to so many things. I mean, again, to go back to the McKenna lecture I was listening to the other day, the idea of novelty and the idea that the universe, just like there's an arrow of time, has an innate behavior to complexify and to create novelty at a faster and faster rate exponentially. It's kind of like a universal law of, so Moore's law is the doubling thing where it's not 1 2 3 4 5 6, it's exponential.
Oh, right. Like if you go 30 steps, you're in a billion.
Right, and it's related to technology. So the doubling of
Yeah.
brain scan technology every year, that kind of thing, where it's not just like slightly better, the same amount every year. It's exponential, and McKenna talks about that in the universal perspective of, at one point, based on our scientific understanding of the universe, it was awash with basically energy, and through the processes it got more complex with stars and more complex with the building of planets, and then now the universe has way more complexity, way more novelty, and then the planet starts to create organisms that are infinitely more novel, and things move forward in novelty. And that what we're seeing right now with technology is this unbelievable fast-paced novelty thing, generation where
Machine.
right, and what Kurzweil talks about is we're just at the dip of this thing. If you look
There's no stopping it. There's no stopping.
There's no stopping.
Yeah.
And
But I also think it's not this evil thing that's gonna like fuck us all. I really believe it's an extension of ourselves. I really think it's more of it's ourselves. It's nature. Even though people think technology as not nature, I really believe that it's an extension. It's a natural evolutionary thing. And I think there's bigger problems to solve than the risks that are involved in technology advancing to that point.
Right. Well, there's a risk that we'll destroy ourselves. That's massive. That's, of course, there. That's huge, right? And the potential for destruction will get more and more real as we go forward with things that have more power to destroy, right? I mean, just think about...
Just went into a fucking crazy idea right
now.
Yo,
okay. Just, go for it. Okay,
so what if bots do take over, right?
Sure.
What if they do? The idea... where I went, that I think it's crazy, but I'm gonna say it anyway.
Yeah.
Is,
dude, you're crazy.
We created the robots and the AI.
Yeah.
What is an extension of our own intelligence. It will be like a reflection of it.
No.
It's only natural that it evolves, and that if they exterminate us, would we be them? If I create my own robot that has the same mental patterns that I have and the same history that...
Okay. Yeah.
And then he kills me, am I him? Because...
You mean is he you?
Do I become him?
No, you don't become him.
No, then that's just my robot killed me. I don't exist anymore.
That's the whole concept.
Even if I have if he has my consciousness.
Yeah, that's
maybe not consciousness, but mental patterns.
Yeah, I think Kurzweil talks about that in How to Create a Mind, or in Singularity of Near. He talks about the concept
he wants to create his
dad.
His dad. Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think we'll be able to. The crazy thing is we'll be able to replicate what on the surface looks like a human. We'll be able to do that.
And Sophia has pretty consistent conversations.
Right, but but the thing is, who are we to say that something appears human isn't the same as us just appearing to be human? Like it
Yeah.
gets squirrely. It gets squirrely. Um,
Mm-hmm. That's
the
like
thing that
saying,
I
yeah.
quickly wanted to say about I don't look at the emergence of unknown technology exponentially as a necessary 100% negative. I totally see that there's good to it. I think what I think we're not doing, and what I think is necessary as a species, is to um, approach it consciously and philosophically and be prepared and understand what's happening. Because right now we're not acknowledging or discussing what's happening, because we're all in a micro level of our lives and of our daily tasks and of bills and getting through life. We need to I think we, and maybe it'll just happen, and in a Buddhist way it'll be a wave, and there's, and we'll just, it's better to just kind of adopt it and not consider. But the potential for destruction, I think, is huge, and I think we should approach it consciously, and we're not doing that. And things are changing faster and
Mm.
faster, and maybe it's still such an early.
But yeah, I mean, just the idea of approaching consciously,
Yeah.
what does that even mean, right? Like it, it's really nothing, and
No,
we
it's
don't even know how to do that, how to
right.
approach technology consciously. I don't think we know how. I think we're trying though. I
This is
think
what
we're
I
really
mean.
trying to get it right. I really think
Yeah.
humanity is trying to get it right. I don't think like it's already out of
No,
control. You
it's
said
not
it's
trying
already
to.
out of control, but
It
I
is
think
out
we're
of
trying
control. You don't think
in some
you think
ways.
we're trying to get it right? You think that the creation of Facebook and the proliferation of serotonin driven advertising and manipulating people's material, you think that that is trying to do the right thing? That's trying to make money for a company that's selling advertising and private data. They're not going to want this culture to have a massive conversation
But
about the influence of social media. What I'm saying about consciousness, just
well,
hear
I
me
could
out.
argue,
Just hear me
yeah,
out. Just hear me out.
yeah.
And I'm getting heated, and it's
Because
fun, and
yeah,
it's
but
fun.
you're going a lot of places. I mean,
No, no, no.
you could
Listen,
talk about Facebook, yeah.
right, but listen. The thing is, uh, to pull a Bill Burr. The thing is, we are. I think we need to have a discussion as a society and go, hold on. We've had these
Mhm.
phones thing for a while. Let's have a massive conversation about how it's influenced your life. And it happens on a minor scale. People bring it up or bring it up right now, and I think I would like people to have longer form conversations personally in their lives and to discuss these things. But I think as a culture we need to go, look, we've had this massive change in the way that we live in the world, and I think we should discuss and go, what's happened, what's good, what's bad, what's been going on, and
Right.
understand the changes. That's what I mean consciously. Go. Sorry.
Yeah, no, 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 dude, I agree. But I do believe that the culture is having those conversations. Maybe it's not maybe like a general assembly where we all gather and talk about it
We
as
need that.
culturally.
We need
We
that.
need that. I mean,
We need a
it's cool.
virtual reality assembly where millions of
Yeah.
people come together in a
Hmm.
room, and we poll and we talk about it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I think, you mentioned Facebook, and
Yeah.
Facebook creates communities, and there's a lot of communities in Facebook but it's just because it's the internet. I mean, the internet is this collective thing where we're discussing things. We really are discussing things.
Right, but
And
I hope we're using it more as a tool right now, which is like one to 5% of what the internet is used for, and that's part of the discussion that needs to happen. I think.
and
I
but I
could be
but what
wrong.
I'm saying is it's not that needs to happen, is that it's happening already. It's evolving into a more definite discussion, but people are discussing that with themselves. Like, should I buy the new iPhone? Should I not? Should I have a smartwatch? Maybe a smartwatch is not a. First, you have it with yourself. How far are you willing to go? And then you have it with some other people. And society is already dividing into tech inclined and not tech inclined. There's people that don't want smartphones. They don't want the internet in their hands. People
Yeah.
don't want that. And And when we get to the point where we're humanoids, or like where we start
Transhuman.
putting, yeah, when we start putting tech in our bodies, in our
Humanoid.
biology,
Can we just say? Can we just acknowledge
maybe that
how
wasn't the
funny?
word.
No, no,
Yeah,
no. I just think that humanoid is a great word. I like it a lot.
humanoid.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
it's
but sorry,
gross.
sorry to interrupt
No,
you.
yeah, but I think that's when the division will be way more clearer,
hundred percent.
when you actually can get to improve your sight or your hearing,
We're doing that already. Yeah.
or like, yeah, true. But
Yeah. What I'm talking about is we live in an environment where the discussions are engineered by communications departments at corporate entities. The influence that we have in the dialogue, dude, I totally get that we say, should I buy the new iPhone or not? But should I buy the new iPhone? Oh, iPhone shouldn't be the discussion.
yeah.
It should be discussing the impact of iPhones on the general population over the last X amount of years as a cultural discussion. But
Right, but like
corporate
normal people
giants,
can't think like that.
because we've engineered a culture that doesn't have these types of conversations on a massive scale. Just think
Because
about
it's
just
also super new, it's very new, and you have to first go through
television.
the
Television is old.
I know, I'm not talking about television. I'm
I
talking
am.
about
I'm talking about massive changes to technology and the way people
okay,
relate to the world should.
let's go with television then. Um,
Yes.
dude, families had discussions. Should we have televisions home? Many families decided not to have televisions home. My parents didn't let me have TV in my room,
Yeah.
and my friends had TVs in their room. And
Yeah.
I really think that was a good thing for me. I'm happy my parents had that conversation between them, and then the implementation of behavior on me that I shouldn't have TV in my room. Um, but you have to first have the individual conversation, then the
Yeah.
family conversation, then the collective conversation. We can't be having like
I don't.
cultural,
I
super
don't think.
scientific conversations on it. If it's all people are
I
only
don't. I don't
figuring
think
out
we
if
ever
they
have the
want it
collective. I don't think we ever have the collective.
ever.
I think we debate the
Uh,
adoption of technology, but once it gets adopted, it is that wave, and we go along, and then it's the next thing. It's the next
maybe
thing.
it's not that drastic yet. When Apple comes out with a product where you have to purchase it, then go with a surgeon to have it implement. Maybe
For
I'm
dude,
saying it's too much. Like,
for 3 years, then everyone's gonna be like, "Oh, you don't have that yet."
right, totally.
It's gonna be, and
Of
then
course,
and
but not everyone. There's gonna be
of course, some
the
people.
people like people have tattoos and then people don't have tattoos, and there's people that will never have a tattoo, and it's not like the
Tattoo.
word the word. There's people that will never get tattooed,
Yes.
because they see it as this purity thing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I think that's gonna happen with tech implementations on biology. People are
100%.
gonna be like, no, I'm in this team, not in that team.
100%. Yeah. The thing is, and can't believe you're fighting on me on this, bro.
Dude, I'm
About
sorry I got
the
this
cultural
is getting
conversation.
heated.
No, it's fun. There's nothing personal.
I know, yeah.
I disagree with myself as well, but I'm just going along with it. Letting my ego go along with
It's
it.
funny how
Uh,
we don't even make a choice, but we're like taking sides.
I
You know? Yeah.
know.
I think that's conversation evolution. I feel like that's necessary. Like we're
Yeah.
doing that so that we both learn something.
Right. And yeah, totally. I think, and this is going to be the quote Terrence McKenna podcast, but
Yeah.
he goes, imagine if the government, or if somebody came up with, not the government, if something was invented. Hold on.
Hold on. If you're gonna do the voice, go all the way. Otherwise,
I'm
don't
not.
try. Don't
I haven't been practicing. But listen, if something was invented that resulted in almost the entire population sitting in a larval state of awareness. For the Pew Research Center a couple of years ago said that average American consumes 15 hours of digital content a day. This is a dramatic pause.
Yeah, you need to repeat that because it needs to sink in.
Consumes 15 hours of a day. That means that
the average American?
The average American. So that means that some people are consuming a couple, but some people are just all day. They have TVs on all day. Hold on. So the idea is, and if something like that happened, imagine there was a drug that came into society that was resulting in everybody was taking it. It was a drug epidemic, and everyone was taking this drug and paying for it on a monthly basis. They were paying for this drug, and what the drug did was they sat in a low awareness state, in like a larval state of awareness, and we have the MRI scans and all that stuff to talk about it. And for 15 hours a day, everyone would go, what is going on? We can't stand for this. We need to stop this whatever's happening. People are taking their time away from them. And that's and his thing is, we did that. It's called television. And that drug, just because it's not a pill, it doesn't have the same cultural weight. But it's like, and he goes, you don't even get to choose your own trip. It's put into you. It's not personal. It has nothing to do with maybe unconscious archetype that you could get learning from, whether it's dream states or whatever. You're sitting there doing nothing, and 15 hours a day. People do it at work. I do it. I get YouTube constantly. Whatever. Everybody watching this, turn it off. Everybody watching, turn this off. Look at a bush. No, and I think we should have had that discussion, or we should talk about that more, rather than just a study that comes out and then a news publishes it, or you learn about it at university and you go, that's horrible, we're such a weird species, and then nothing changes. My point is, as we approach the singularity or whatever it is, or this massive change in technology, I think there needs to be a much larger discussion in how we approach these things as human beings, because it's getting crazy.
Yeah,
that's it.
It's getting crazy. At least you can choose your own trip with YouTube.
Kind of. You start one, but then you don't choose the content is you just choose the type of thing, and then it shoves it in your eyes.
Right. Yeah. But I mean, you can choose the wormhole. You can choose but then it becomes unconscious, and you're just clicking stuff, see where you go.
Like imagination. Imagination is going. Memory is going. As a human mind activity, we are losing imagination just as much as memory, I think.
Maybe there's going to be an imagination and creativity renaissance when
virtual reality. Maybe.
And when technology is more available to everyone, and like not that exciting to have, maybe then people would be like, well, I'm tired of this, what's new? And then you go to the very old.
Yeah.
The revival of
archaic revival. Well, that's and that's all just that Alan Watts thing where he goes, imagine you could dream whatever you wanted every night, and you'd start to have crazier and crazier dreams, and you'd have dreams that last thousands of years, and you'll dream even more outlandish things, and then eventually you'll get tired of all that, and you'll start to dream the life that you're living, because you'll end up wanting to go back to that. It's just I butchered it. It's an amazing quote, and he's a master orator, so it sounds really cool. But it's the idea that once you'll get tired of novelty in sort of that Passes by.
You get tired of
Trail off.
novelty.
Trail off.
Hmm. Well, novelty exists so that boredom is not a thing forever.
Novelty in the what we were talking about earlier, I think, is a fundamental piece of the universe.
Hmm.
Novelty.
I think we're getting to a point where we need to close this
I agree.
to some rational and practical understanding of
Yeah.
maybe, or
The
we'll just leave it open to.
the uh, I think on my end the technology thing. Um, as we were talking in the last podcast, I am gonna do my best to consciously be able to control will so that I can relate to technology in parameters that I define. Uh,
Mhm.
because on a personal level, and as we were talking before, that's the best way to. I think it's powerful on a personal level. What you do, um,
Yeah,
yeah, you get what I'm saying.
totally. And you're going back to the how do we approach how do we approach technology consciously as a collective?
Right.
I think the answer is how do I personally approach my own technology consciously as an
Yeah.
individual? And then that gives answers to the collective thing. So, we're already implementing some conscious behavior for technology use. If we don't we don't charge our phones overnight right next to us while we sleep on our
Yeah.
table bed table thing.
Yeah.
Um, at least I charge my phone outside my room,
I've done that the last couple
and
days.
I go through my
It's good.
morning routine without checking my phone. So
Yeah.
but dude, I get some kind of anxiety. Like sometimes it's 9 a.m. and I'm
Yeah.
finishing my routine and I'm like, am I missing something? Am I,
Yeah.
fear of missing out?
Yeah.
Super early in the morning, and I don't like that. I don't like that.
I think that that will change the more we can continue that type of a practice or relationship to technology. What's funny with me is I'm using my watch for my alarm right now beside my bed because I'm keeping my phone outside, um, and it's so much harder
Nice.
on my watch
Do you have an
to.
Apple Watch?
No, I just have like
Oh, nice.
an old school
Okay, okay.
Timex.
Nice.
You
Yeah.
this guy right here. This guy right here.
Oh,
Shout out to
nice.
Timex.
Old school. Yeah.
Um, it takes a long time to stop the alarm and then to change the alarm to a later time because I want to snooze.
Dude, the snoozing is beautiful.
I don't have snooze on this. So
Uh-huh.
the last couple of days I've woken up and then for 10 minutes I've been like
Yeah.
trying to set 10 minutes later, and the first day I did it maybe like four times. I still snoozed like four times. And then today I
Yeah.
only did it once, but that's actually just having my phone outside is helping me wake up when my alarm
Yeah.
goes, just because of how hard it is to change the snooze
I
function.
wish I could eliminate the need for an alarm altogether. Like,
Yeah, that'd be good.
um, I don't usually go to bed early because I get immersed in whatever I'm doing,
Yeah.
and the feeling that people are going to bed and that I'm still pounding work, that has some kind of psychological effect on me that I'm like I'm gonna go until 4 a.m.
Yeah.
because people are going to bed and
Why are you
I'm
competing with
getting
them?
ahead.
Ahead
I
of
don't know,
what?
dude.
You're
I
doing
know,
different
but
work.
I know. That's why
Yeah.
I'm mentioning it.
Right.
It's something about working during night when people
Yeah.
are asleep, and I'm the only one. Like maybe, of course, not the only one, but like it feels that way. That
Yeah.
I don't know. It's crazy. I wish I could go to bed early and naturally wake up 6, 7 a.m. and don't need to have an alarm or snooze. Every time I snooze, I do snooze a lot, to be
Yeah.
honest. Every time I do it,
Couple one two
I feel
snoozers.
like I feel like I'm a failure. Because
You feel guilty, man. You
I
feel
told
guilty.
myself this is a goal, and it's the first goal of the day, and it's
Yeah,
supposed to be easy. Just wake up, and you failed on your first goal.
that's a muscle. Yeah,
Like that's
yeah,
different conversation though.
totally. I think what I'm doing is I'm setting my alarm slightly later than my goal is, and then just to reach that shitty goal, and then hopefully I'll pull it back and then get better and better. But that's the whole
Yeah.
um,
Did you mean earlier?
later
You're setting it later than you should?
than my goal. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
So that I can try to succeed at a less hard goal, and then I'll shift it as I get better.
Ah, okay, I get it. Yeah.
Um, this was a great
Dude,
talk.
I don't know what's the time frame on this. How two
We're
hours
we're at
exactly, bro.
151 on the stream.
On the stream, nice.
Um, yeah, this was great. Thank
Yeah,
you
bro.
for the conversation.
I appreciate it. Yeah.
What's weird is you now doesn't look like we're live right now. So I guess
No, we're not. I
it
checked halfway. I didn't want to see
did it
mention it, but yeah.
did it stop?
I don't know if it started even.
I think it started on YouTube for sure, so we'll see. But this is not. I'll check it afterwards. Yeah, appreciate it. We'll get back soon, and hopefully for all the technical issues, we'll improve as we go along, and
Of course, yeah.
work out this whole streaming thing. All right, thank you.
There. Thank you, bro. Let's end here.
All right.
Dude, okay, wait, don't.
What? I didn't stop it yet.
Um, never mind. I'm sorry.
All
I'm
right,
sorry. I was gonna open a whole different thing. Let's just close it.
we're
I
done.
apologize. I apologize for the cam issue.
Thanks everyone. Peace.